to strengthen and enrich individuals' lives, our community, the economy, and the environment. Any public comments?
No, sir.
No public comments. That takes us to item E on the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second for approval moved by Trustee Buchanan, seconded by Trustee Foster. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll see financial reports as always, as well as our search reports. First, in the financial reports, I wanted to just highlight one thing, not that you get concerned about it, but in the expenses, towards the end, we have an expense to travelers for property damage. That's our property damage insurance. That is not damage to property. So I just wanted to clarify that that was not a payment for some sort of damage. When we look at the income statement, you'll see that we're currently at about 77% of our budget expended. We should be at about 83%, so we are actually under budget at this point, going into the end of the last 2 months of the year. Conversely, we are at over 90% of our revenue. So revenue again is higher than budgeted, and expenses are lower than budgeted, which is a good thing. When we look at our operating statistics, ridership to date is 9.75, higher than last year this time. But you'll see mobility actually decreased for the first time, I think, since I've been here. So our mobility ridership is at 17% higher. As you know, next year we budgeted for about 20% higher. Costs of about 27% higher. So we are anticipating more growth in this area. Just this was an anomaly month, and we'll look into why that occurred this month. When you look all the way down the sheet, operator pay hours to service hours, we want to hover around 1.29, which is where we are year to date. But we did have some additional overtime and guarantee time this month, so that knocked those hours up a little bit. Managing those really leads to our efficiency overall. You'll also have the Cardinal and Cornerstone reports. So in the Cardinal report, I just encourage you to read this. There are a couple of things that came out, Department of Justice rules for transit agencies. One of the things that is mentioned in there is an implementation of specific requirements for making information accessible online. We actually work with LifeSil to ensure that occurs. So they actually do an audit of our website and make some recommendations for us to improve those. Last time we did that was about 6 months ago or so. So they continually look at it and share their findings with us. Also, the next one, the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Act, that may have some impact on our transit center dollars, primarily because under this Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act, we need to move the post office from their existing location and set them up in a new location. So while we're building the transit center, it's our understanding that they have no intention of moving back. So we haven't heard that finally though, and we haven't heard their final move out date. So as we continue to move forward, this may impact it, but they have not requested yet any sort of relocation assistance. The last one is the Cornerstone. This is a fairly lengthy document. I'm not going to go through it all in it. Again, I encourage you to read it. However, we did learn today that $3 million is in in the state budget for our transit center. As you recall, it was authorized in 2019, but now it will be actually appropriated in the budget. So even though it was authorized in 2019, there was never a budget allowance that would allow us to have that money. Now it is. So it's at a good time given the fact that we hope to break ground soon. And now we have that additional $3 million. That is not over and above the $18 million. That's within that $18 million that we had for the transit center. And that concludes my report.
Questions for the general manager?
Just one comment back on the ADA
Yes.
update. The one thing that we're struggling with as struggling's a strong word, but one thing we're trying to navigate with our software providers and myself is not just our website, but it's all the documents from our council meeting packets. All those attachments have to also be ADA compliant, so you want to take a look at all the attachments for all your meetings that are on the website and make sure all those attachments are meet the new ADA standards.
And is that just readable, like with a reader, or do they need to also?
I do not.
Okay, I'll dig into that a little further. Thank you.
And would it include all of the documents, we have our.
True,
strategic
but
plan.
the things like PDFs and all the documents that we attach in our packets for our meetings, it's those attachments that are a little bit of a challenge.
Sure. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? If not, there's a motion and a second on the floor for approval. Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Buchanan,
Yes.
Trustee Foster,
Yes.
Trustee Rao,
Yes.
and Chairman Whitehouse.
Yes, motion passes. Takes us to committee reports. Are there committee reports?
No committees this month.
No committee reports. Takes us to new business, item G, letter A, recommendation to approve federal lobbying services contract extension. And a motion and a second for approval moved by Trustee Rao, seconded by Trustee Foster. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This just gives me the authorization to execute a single-year contract with Cardinal Infrastructure, and Brady will describe that further.
Thanks, David. So as David mentioned, this recommendation is to authorize general manager to execute a single-year contract extension with Cardinal Infrastructure to provide federal representation in Washington, D.C. As you know, we've been in contract with Cardinal Infrastructure for the past 8 years to provide that federal representation. Helps increase our return on federal dollars through grant programs, legislation, and regulatory action. This contract is actually due for a request for proposals, but we've opted to seek a single-year contract extension, mainly because we have so many projects that Cardinal is deeply involved with that would take another firm significant amount of time and effort to get up to speed. So we do intend to seek an RFP after this single-year extension. As you know, Cardinal has been helping us build strategic relationships with our congressional delegation and the Federal Transit Administration, and really helping us, they provide valuable insights to the priorities of the current administration and assist us with our competitive discretionary grant applications. They've been instrumental in are successful with those applications and securing over $32.6 million in additional capital funding coming back to the Bloomington Normal community. This single-year extension will cost Connect Transit $84,000. That does represent a $500 per month increase over last year's contract. And just as a reminder, federal and state regulations require the use of local funds for this contract. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Brady? Trustee Buchanan?
The increase in the fee, is that, do you do that annually, or when was the last time they increased it?
I don't know if there was an increase last year. I don't have that in front of me. I believe there
There
was a
was.
small increase last year as well.
Other questions?
So if it is $500 increase, what amount that increase? What is the base amount?
What is the increase based on? Just additional, as labor costs have gone up, they've actually,
Last year, how much we did this year? Fine.
what was the increase last year?
Yeah.
I do not.
No, the
have-
difference
no,
between
no.
last year and this year.
Oh, so it's $500 per month, so it's,
6,000.
yeah, $6,000 total
Oh,
for the entire
that's
contract, for the entire year.
Other questions?
Motion.
Motion, there's a motion and a second on the floor for approval. Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Buchanan,
Yes.
Trustee Foster,
Yes.
Trustee Rao,
Yes.
and Chairman Whitehouse.
Yes. Wanted to sway anybody. Money well spent. So, takes us to item B, recommendation to approve fiscal year 25 health insurance renewal. I need a motion and a second for approval moved by Trustee Foster, seconded by Trustee Buchanan. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to let Stephanie describe what our increases are.
Hello, I have coming to a recommendation to approve the contract for our current carrier, insurance carrier, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, for the term of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. We did not have any changes in our low and medium deductible plans. We did have a change in our high deductible plan, which did increase to 3,000, from 3,000, I'm sorry, to 3,200 this year from last year. And then we had, for the family deductible, did increase from 6,000 to 6,400. That is for the IRS requirements, so that actually has no things with us. As far as the financial impact, the total cost of the health insurance was 8.05, higher for the FY25 renewal. There you go on that one. There was a change to our short-term disability, our life, our accidental, AD&D, our dental and long-term disability carrier. We did move from Mutual of Omaha over to Blue Cross Blue Shield Dearborn for the FY25 renewal. There was no impact to our vision, and then we did have just wanted to know that our vision insurance has a 4-year lock on it until 2026.
And if I can add something to that, by moving our short-term disability, life, AD&D, dental and long-term disability, moving that from Mutual of Omaha to Blue Cross actually netted us an additional 2% reduction. So the actual increase is not 8.05, it's 5.89. So I just wanted to make that clarification. The health insurance alone was that, but when we moved everything else, the bundle actually gave us a premium reduction.
Can you share what's that number to our cost? What's that 8%? What is that number? Do you know that?
Pat, do you have that offhand? I'm sorry.
Right here, I can
Yeah,
go
I can
look
get
and see
it.
that.
I don't have it on me, but I can get it though.
Yeah, we budgeted a 10% increase because at the time we did the budget, we didn't have
Yeah.
these numbers yet.
I would be interested to see what that number is. I don't know, maybe postpone this, but I would like to see what that actual number cost is.
Sure.
And then in addition to that, additional cost to the family who has the plan.
The
Was
high
that
deductible
increased
plan, that was increased from 6,000 to 6,400.
for, so that,
Mhm. Yes,
And we did go out for proposals for this, or?
that is correct. We did, actually Truxell, who is our insurance broker, did negotiate those, and we actually were able to get that down from 19% down to the 5.89.
And did we have proposals from other carriers?
We did, it was United Healthcare, yeah, it was Humana, I think I have another one.
Did we see the document which helps us appreciate why this one was selected over other carriers?
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, they shared that with us in great detail.
You share it with the board?
No,
Is that- I think that's what she's asking.
oh, if you would like to see that, we can provide that to you, sure.
Again, if I ask questions that you can't answer, just tell me you can't answer these, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So, do we put anything in towards an HSA to incentivize employees to go to that to help lower our cost?
We do not. So what happened the last time we negotiated our labor agreement was we pulled out our incentive because the HSA was as costly as the other. So when we included the cost of the HSA plan to the employee plus the incentive to take the HSA plan, it exceeded the cost of the highest plan. So we actually negotiated that out last time, and they were happy to do so, quite honestly, because it gave them a better level of insurance.
No
for
one uses the
a
HSA.
lower
Probably.
cost. Very few people do.
Very few
Yeah.
people.
I think there's still a few people in the plan just because they're comfortable with the doctors or whatever.
Pete, answer it first. Other questions? Motion and a second for approval. Clerk call the roll.
Trustee Buchanan,
Yes.
trustee Foster,
yes,
trustee Rao,
Yes.
and Chairman Whitehouse.
Yes. Takes us to item C, recommendation to approve the 2024 Title VI update. Need a motion and a second for approval, moved by trustee Rao, seconded by trustee Foster. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to have Shelley describe the changes in the plan from the last time we approved this a few years ago.
So every 3 years, we have to, according to FTA guidelines, update the plan. So this year, we actually had to update quite a few things. So we had to remove the CTAC committee. During COVID, they did not really meet because of COVID restrictions. And we revamped that program to the ambassador program. So that needed to come out of the Title VI program. We also updated the way we do public participation plan and the opportunities for participation. We learned through COVID a lot of different ways to get people involved, so we needed to include all those. That includes meetings, open houses, focus groups, surveys, writer forums, and social media engagement that we utilize. So all that was included in the plan as well. We also made some adjustments to the vehicle headways and our service. So we had to update all of the systems, basically the headways, all of the route information, how many, the frequency of the routes and things like that. All that needed to be updated, so we updated that as well. With the census, the new census that went out, we also had to update our limited English proficiency, the LEP program, because the area changes with our demographics. So we also have to look at, do we need to change status? Do we need to be having documents translated into different languages? So we also updated that as well. We also utilize a, I guess it would be a device for translations out on the road. So we also need to make sure that device is updated and has those languages as well. So that was also updated. That also helps us know which documents we need to translate. So what different languages do we need to have all of our applications, all of our writer's guides, and all of our signage on our buses as well. And then we also had to change a lot of census numbers. There was a lot of changes to the census numbers in our area, so we had to update all of those as well for various things. And then we also had to include the FLEX program. So all that had to be included into the program and updated so that we could stay in compliance with the Title VI program guidelines. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. We do this every 3 years, so I forget what I did yesterday, so. Title VI program, what is that in general? What's the Title VI
So it's
program?
mostly to make sure that you're staying in compliance with, that you have the, basically, you're serving the populations that need it. So basically, when we're looking at route changes and things like that, we're making sure that we're looking at the right areas and the right demographics that we need to be looking at. Also too, it goes into different things. Are we also looking at hiring, things like that? But for us, we really focus on that area of the program. So that is what we look at when we're looking at that.
And this is a requirement
Yes.
from Department of Transportation.
Yep. We have to have it on file for a lot of applications and grants that we apply for.
Other questions? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second for approval on the floor. Clerk call the roll.
Trustee Buchanan?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee Rao?
Yes.
And Chairman Whitehouse.
Yes, motion is approved. Item D, recommendation to approve a title change. I need a motion and a second for approval moved by trustee Buchanan and seconded by trustee Foster. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, my title is general manager. However, in transit systems across the state, they follow the Local Mass Transit Act. Is an act of the state of Illinois. Within the act, it says that the board shall employ a managing director, not a general manager. When we look at the industry, managing director is far more common than general manager, or sometimes CEO is also common. When we go to APTA events, typically things focused on my position are CEO, but I feel that particular title feels more like a private sector title, not a public sector. I would like to change my title to managing director to be more in line with other transit agencies in the state. The title itself doesn't really mean a lot. I think you all know that I lead the agency, but the managing director kind of implies that I still have a hands-on role within the agency. Most of our senior managers are directors. So I would be the managing director where they are directors of particular areas. So I'm just allowing, asking for the allowance to make that title change. It won't cost us anything in terms of financial impact. I won't go out and change all of my business cards immediately and that sort of thing. It'll just be a title change as I'm introduced and things like that.
Any questions? It's like a law firm. He's
That's
a
right.
partner, I guess.
I know, and I'm thinking that, we got to change websites and all that kind of stuff, update that information.
Yeah.
Then would it be confusing to people to thinking that your role has changed or has it increased? Do you see any?
I really don't
They're
think so. I mean,
challenging
people don't
people.
really ask. Oftentimes I'm introduced as the CEO anyway, quite
Mhm.
honestly. So I think the title change is just something I would need to clarify if they do ask.
Jeff Jurgens, City Manager Jurgens, I see your hand raised.
Thanks. I'm not sure what the protocol here is, if I can ask a question or not.
Yeah.
Great. Is this something that's in our IGA that we would need to update? Has that been checked?
The general manager title is in the IGA. I spoke to Steve Martin. He felt that we just needed to amend the IGA with a simple amendment, like an addendum to the IGA.
Thoughts, Jeff? Or you're just asking kind of there? You can do this, right? City managers, we think we can do that. I'm sure you're comfortable with it.
I believe we are nominating for assistant general manager someone, no?
We are, yeah. Later in the report, we'll have that. So that would be the deputy managing director.
Yeah,
Would
that's
be that
what they're
role.
asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's below the partners thing. Trustee Buchanan.
And I think David's already covered this, but when we discussed this, I thought, managing director, some might perceive is now this person going to become some kind of ex officio member of the board of directors. So while we're all trustees, most of the time we're referred to as the board. But I think rather than make some kind of big announcement about the name change, David would be able to cover. Would be managing director / executive director, was that, or is executive director kind of mean the same thing to you that CEO does?
No, I think executive director actually falls a lot in line with the nonprofit sector.
Yes, it does.
So you see executive directors in nonprofits.
Right.
Again, this just really follows the Mass Transit Act.
And I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, motion and any other questions? Motion and a second to approve is on the floor. Clerk call the roll.
Trustee Buchanan?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee Rao?
Yes,
And Chairman Whitehouse?
Yes, it's approved.
Thank you.
That takes us to chairman's report. I'm sure David is going to talk a little bit about this. I just want to mention, and I'm sure Pam, if she wants to say something too, open it to her as well. Since our last meeting, we did have the EDC One Voice trip. David and Brady were there representing our organization. We had a project that was approved for a request. I went on behalf of the Illinois Farm Bureau, so I was there as well at Illinois Farm Bureau's expense. And I think the meetings went well. I think there's interest. We talked to our delegations, both senators and 2 members of Congress that represent parts of Wilmington Normal. And I think the meetings overall went pretty well. Hopefully we'll see some positives from this. Again, it's a good project to participate. David, we've been a part of this. We have been benefited from this program as well with support on the Downtown Transit Center and all that stuff as well. So I think it's a good partnership that we do. And the delegation always says it's nice to see that everyone comes together, both communities, the county, private business, labor, for-profit, not-for-profit, taxing authorities, and we narrow down what our request is so they don't have 80 people asking for $10 million each. So I think it's a pretty good program. That is all I have on chairman's report. Any questions on that? Or Pam, if you want to contribute anything to that.
Well, just affirmation, I think the meetings went well with the legislators, and we'll see how it plays out. It was a good presentation.
And Billy from the city of Wilmington was there representing the city of Wilmington, so they were there as well.
Just stand there.
Okay, that takes us to item I, the new managing director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start with congratulating Brady. Brady's been named our Assistant General Manager, now Deputy Managing Director. As you know, he's been here for about 8 years. He's done a fantastic job starting in maintenance, moving to procurement, and I'm pretty sure everyone already thought he was my Assistant General Manager. So this isn't a big change for him, except that, next slide, please. We're changing the structure of the organization a little bit. So Brady and I met and talked about how we should share our responsibilities. Obviously, my role is to the board of directors. Janice will be serving both of us. But we broke it out really into external and internal operations. Finance, I think, is something that the board expects me to be responsible for. So we kept finance under me. Safety and training definitely makes an impact on what outside is. Human resources is also over the entire agency, so I felt that should stay with me. But marketing and then the transit plan are all things that kind of impact the community. So I'm looking at kind of the broader environment of how we fit into the community and how our services fit in, where Brady is going to deal with mostly the day-to-day. So the procurements, the operations and maintenance, and then the IT, which is mostly internal networking and things like that. We both felt very comfortable with this layout, and the positions under all of the directors and managers have not changed. We'll continue to do what's best for the agency in terms of our organization structure. But as far as, obviously I'm still the managing director, so I will still have oversight of all the departments. But this way he can spend more time with them and I can spend more time with the departments that need it, as well as the board of trustees. I also mentioned last month that I wanted to lay out a strategic plan scorecard. I'm not really thrilled with this format, but I will go through it. Janice, if you don't mind. I laid it out so all the objectives and the activities are broken out without much narrative, and just to show what the timeline is and then when they were completed. Some of those things, the things that are in process, are things that we're actively working on to try to get them to match the strategic plan timeline goals. And those things that are pending have not yet been started. So some of these things are certainly on our radar, but just haven't been started yet. This has been shared with the board only through this presentation, so I'm happy to share this in a different format. And I also think over time, I want to do more of a narrative to describe those activities that we are working on, or those activities that have been completed and how they've been completed. I don't know that this format presents that, but I did promise that I would create a scorecard. This is my first attempt at it, and we can continue to have this discussion. So the next slide, please. You can see all the things that are in process versus pending, and you will have a copy of this as well with the general manager's presentation. If you have questions about that as you look through it, please just contact me directly. That would be helpful. Another thing I said in the strategic plan actually is that we create a board handbook, and the board handbook is really just a guideline as to what it is to be a board member here at Connect Transit. It gives an at-a-glance of our service, and given that Tim left last month, we will be having a new board member, and this will help guide that board member as to what we're all about, the things that we're responsible for. I didn't want to presume that this would be coming from me to you, so I'll be establishing one-on-ones. I'll be presenting a draft within the next week to all of you, and then establishing either one-on-ones or committee meetings to talk about with the committees those things that should be in, not be in, and that sort of thing. This was based on a draft that was done in 2017 before I arrived, and then updated. So we can certainly change this any way that we want to. I just felt that it would be very helpful to have some sort of handbook, some sort of guideline of what it is to be a board member for Connect Transit. We've done a lot in the community, and one thing I neglected to add to this, and I'm sorry for doing that, but we were notified that we were awarded an earmark for $800,000 for communications equipment and safety equipment on board our buses. So it's very exciting. We just put out the press release today. I was interviewed by WMBD and WEK about it. And this is really a big thanks to Senator Durbin for getting this in the budget and approved. I think he recognizes the importance of safety in our community and the fact that a safe public transit system means safety for drivers, safety for pedestrians and other motorists, as well as our passengers. So he recognizes really the importance we play in the safety of the community, and that's what the $800,000 is for. $800,000 represents about 35% of the total anticipated cost of these safety improvements. The others will come from the Downstate Operating Assistance Program. And we have allocated or set aside those dollars for this project. As Chairman Whitehouse said, we did do the One Voice trip. Next slide, please. We did meet with the congressional delegation in person. So rather than meeting with their staff, which we did during our APTA trip, we actually met with them in person. There are 4 different projects. Ours was a partnership with Heartland Community College. We felt that the partnership idea went over pretty well. It expands the number of people who benefit from this. It's not just Connect Transit that's benefiting, but we are leveraging dollars that we had already received for the training center that we were going to use, as well as a storage facility, to expand those dollars to build a training center for Heartland Community College, and then potentially down the road a state regional maintenance center. So we believe that it was well received. There are many more constituents when we bring in Heartland, and we'll see where those discussions go. And then you can see the other projects that were there as well. We also met with the Department of Labor, Transportation, and then some others to learn about what other economic development activities are happening, how advocacy, including transit, can help in community development, and then changing trends in the workforce. So we had great discussions at the Department of Labor and Transportation about our project, and we were given some guidance as to how to move forward on those. For others, we had a number of people attend the APTA Mobility Conference. Next slide. And there were a number of sessions that were attended for this. And I don't mean to read any of this out to you, but there were some great things that were discussed that will really impact us in the future, especially as we're developing the transit center and as we look to improve things like employee morale. The bus rodeo is something that hadn't been done at APTA for quite some time, but we've been discussing it as a Central Illinois, having a Central Illinois bus rodeo at the state conference. So having somebody attend that and see what that's all about will help us lead that effort in the future. These are all things, again, that'll be in the report, and you can certainly follow up if you're interested. But some things were, safety is definitely top of mind with APTA, and there are some things that the APTA is really looking at, and some things even for us as we build our transit center, some considerations as to having staffing there to improve the feeling of safety, if not safety itself. And then there's also some Medicaid human service transportation in Pennsylvania, where the DOT is using the software that we actually use for paratransit to try to get statewide mobility for paratransit. So it's interesting. This would be a state initiative, something that we couldn't do on our own. But if it is, it seems like other states are actually considering how mobility, especially through Medicaid and human service transportation, can be extended throughout the state. In maintenance, Charlie attended the maintenance takeaways. The main thing is the state of the bus manufacturing industry, as well as just zero emission buses and the things that the industry is doing to ensure that not only we have best practices, but also a strong manufacturing sector. So if you have anything, again, to add, feel free to ask. Carrie attended a Transportation Safety Institute courses for project management and transit service planning. Carrie is our operations analyst, and she will be very much involved in any sort of route changes that we do. She'll assist in how we configure service in downtown, and then also the risk management associated with those practices. So it was great to see her involved in taking these Transportation Safety Institute courses. We're always hiring, so we always have turnover, so we're always hiring. But you can see the positions that are open currently. And then we did fill a number of positions, bus operators, dispatch and microtransit. A couple of reminders, we do need updated board photos. So if you have an opportunity, please set up an appointment with Janice and she'll get a photo with the right background and that sort of thing. And then if our apparel allocation, if you have not purchased apparel yet, your allocation will be expiring at the end of June. So if you'd like to purchase something, feel free to purchase on the website.
And you're urged to do so sooner than later because a lot of the things are back ordered, so please do it as soon as possible.
Yeah, and also you will get another allocation in July, but your existing allocation will end and new allocation will start at that time. And that concludes my report.
Questions for David? Seeing none. Thank you, David.
Oh, yeah, I do have one.
Sorry.
And that was with the handbook. I think that
Yeah.
was far on in between time to have one. And so thank you for that. And in addition to that, congratulations to everyone who was able to go and attend the conferences. The things that you are attending and learning helps us to be able to be better for our community. So thank you for your commitment to that. You as well.
Other questions, comments? Thanks, Linda. We are going to executive session?
We are, yeah, trustee comments and the bylaws need to come before so that's why they're up on the agenda that way.
Okay. Trustees' comments. Comments from trustees. Going once? Gone. No trustees' comments. Congratulations, Brady. So, executive session?
Yes, and we will,
Need a motion and a second to adjourn to executive session. People can stay here. We'll move to the other room.